Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for your Monday morning Chelsea news. This week is the week. We will find out who the new Chelsea manager will be to lead us in to the 24-25 season. Will it be Enzo Maresca, Leicester City manager? Will it be Kieran McKenna from Ipswich? No, it will not. He's no longer in the race. Will it be De Zerbi? Or will it be Thomas Frank? Or will Eden Hazard have his say? And will it be Como's manager, Cesc Fabregas? Welcome back to the channel. If you're not yet subscribed, this is the time to do so. We're going to have so much content this week with the announcement expected for the new manager in the next 2 or 3 days. I've got a funny feeling it's going to be today or tomorrow that we find out who that new manager is going to be. Over the course of the weekend, I think social media is either a train that you're on at the moment when it comes to figuring out, reading the Chelsea news, or if you're not on social media, then I guess it's just you dip in and out and you kind of know the little bits that you hear on the grapevine. A lot of people were saying that it was Kieran McKenna that it was destined to be. Roberto De Zerbi was the mystery man, that reported fourth candidate. Thomas Frank is a name that apparently has been going and doing the rounds, and it's like at the Grand National, which is a horse race, there are some runners that start really well and then they die towards the end. Some of them literally, which is very sad. But like, I mean, in terms of keeping up that pace, Thomas Frank's name has been there in this horse race the whole flipping time. Enzo Maresca has also been there as well. First things first, I'm happy that Kieran McKenna is no longer in the race, because if he's waiting out for a Brighton job or a Man United job, then I certainly don't want him at Chelsea, because he couldn't get a better offer anywhere else. I don't want anyone to be looking at the Chelsea job as like yeah, go on then, I'll do that because I didn't get that. It's got to be the pinnacle. It's got to be the peak. So we had an Ornstein dagger of sorts, I guess you could say, at the weekend. And David Ornstein is a very reputable journalist who very rarely even tweets unless he knows for certain what he's coming out and saying. Exclusive: Chelsea no longer considering Kieran McKenna as next head coach. 38-year-old, an early favourite and admired by CFC, but not among final candidates as process approaches conclusion. Enzo Maresca and Thomas Frank now only known options remaining, and this is written through The Athletic. So when we read at the bottom here, the only known options remaining, that fourth man was a mystery man. Chelsea have been publishing briefs that certain journalists get a hold of so that we know what this shortlist is. It isn't just journalists plucking names out of the blue that it could be De Zerbi, it could be Maresca, it kind of could be all of those at this point, because that is the process that Chelsea are going through. What's good about this guy? What's good about that guy? What's bad? What's bad? So those were the names that were given. And I think De Zerbi's name, whilst we were trying to establish what that release clause amount was going to be, because obviously he's not the Brighton manager anymore, but for whatever reason, there is still a nominal fee that needs to be paid to Brighton to secure the services of Roberto De Zerbi. And I think when you look at all of the things that we've been led to believe, I think if we're going to talk about like rebuttals, which is basically like there's a remit that Chelsea will give. This is your role. You're the head coach of Chelsea. What do you have to say about it? I think Thomas Frank will just be like, yep, I think I can do that. I like it. Just give me the paperwork. I'll sign on the dotted line. Enzo Maresca, maybe slightly more questions to be had, but I still think he's saying pretty much yes to everything. Roberto De Zerbi, having only just gone at Brighton, spoken to Tony Bloom and realised that he wasn't in the right place. The vision of the club didn't align with what he wanted to achieve and do as a manager. Roberto De Zerbi, of all of those names, if McKenna is now off of that four-man shortlist, out of those three, I absolutely see more rebuttals for Roberto De Zerbi, which is why I'm very convinced he'll become the new Chelsea manager. Because from what we're led to believe, Bedad Egbali really wants De Zerbi as the manager. It's other members of the hierarchy at Chelsea that are maybe more sold by a Maresca or more sold by a Thomas Frank. So speaking of Enzo Maresca, we haven't really spoke about him too much. He's, like we've said earlier, in that horse race. He's been there, chomping at the bit the whole time, but as he got the legs in him, it's basically becoming like that now. Enzo Maresca favours Premier League over any other league, despite approaches from Sevilla already rejected. He's waiting for Chelsea decision after talks in the recent days. Release clause is around 10 million euros after getting promoted. Leicester also waiting for that. Fabrizio Romano also here comes in with an update on Ruben Amorim. This is not the news that we wanted. This isn't the dagger that I was desiring. Ruben Amorim's not in talks with Chelsea, despite links as CFC want a manager who has worked in English football. Kieran McKenna also out of the list and set to decide his future this week, with Brighton waiting for his final decision. We have just been spending the whole weekend trying to narrow down exactly who that shortlist is going to be. Ruben Amorim is a name who, to be quite honest, if you look across all of the most reputable Chelsea journalists, it's always kind of been like an opinionated preference, as opposed to this actually tangibly could happen for Chelsea Football Club. Ruben Amorim will not become the new Chelsea manager. We're also going to just talk here for a second about Eden Hazard, who was asked in an exclusive interview, a bit sad to be fair, this is his opinions on Pochettino. I think he did a great job. People want Chelsea to be top 4, but it was a season of transition. De Zerbi next manager? Maybe, but I have my friend in Como. Eden Hazard knows what he's doing. Now that he's retired as a footballer, he can enjoy the media frenzy that will come. And I tell you what, look, some people genuinely did believe, as a result of Eden Hazard saying this, that Cesc Fabregas might well be in line to be part of the Chelsea managerial staff. It very much could happen. Not as the head coach, not as the number one guy, but apparently Fabregas was at Cobham recently. He was talking with Pochettino in his office, came across very confused by Pochettino's sacking, but then at the same time, Chelsea are willing to offer him a role at the club. And look, the way that Fabregas got Como promoted last year, it looks to me as though it's one of those where it's still a bit of a slow burner. Give him a few years and we could be talking about him in a similar breath to a lot of the young progressive managers that are out there already. But Fabregas, to come in at Chelsea, I'm absolutely all for this. But to be fair, Enzo Maresca's name just hasn't gone away. And I've spoken a lot about Kieran McKenna. He was the favourite over the weekend. I made my De Zerbi video, 2 De Zerbi videos really. And out of all of the names available, I still think Roberto De Zerbi would be my favoured option now. If Ruben Amorim is ruled out, there was never really any too close, too tangible links there, then I would absolutely prefer Roberto De Zerbi over Enzo Maresca. I think with Maresca, that possession-based football, he'd absolutely bring that to Chelsea. But considering Leicester nearly bottled the Championship last season, having wages astronomically higher than any other club, with a squad so much stronger than any other club, I just wonder if Enzo Maresca could handle the pressure at Chelsea. And it's not about, because Enzo Maresca has worked under Pep Guardiola, Mikel Arteta worked under Pep Guardiola, and it doesn't mean that if you've been a disciple of Guardiola, you're destined to be successful as a manager by yourself. These two things, as much as they might align, and if you've been under the tutelage of Guardiola, chances are your education has been a lot better than someone who listens to me or looks at my tactics on Football Bloody Manager. But Enzo Maresca for me is a concern. I think it's the same as Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank's name hasn't gone away, as we keep saying. My opinion is, my prediction for today and tomorrow is that Roberto De Zerbi will become the new manager of Chelsea. But until it is Thomas Frank or Enzo Maresca, I'm not that excited about it. I think Enzo Maresca would be like, Thomas Frank I just don't want. I do not want Thomas Frank at Chelsea Football Club. Yes, he might be a good manager, comes across semi-well in the media, but like, his Brentford team, yeah, they've stayed in the Premier League, but that is about it. And it is about levels at this point. I think there's a lot more to be said for someone who's worked under Guardiola, just got promoted. If you listen to Enzo Maresca, I've been watching a lot of videos on Coach's Voice, reading a lot of articles about these guys that are linked with Chelsea. The style of football fits the bill a lot more. Enzo Maresca, possession-based football. But for me, it's De Zerbi as the #1 right now. Let me know your thoughts. Where do you think it's going to go? When's the announcement going to come? I think later today or maybe tomorrow lunchtime. Thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video. Your Monday morning Chelsea news update. Subscribe if you are new. Smack a like if you enjoyed it. Come on, you Blues.